Thanks for joining Sales with Suli, a mom of three who spent the last 12 summers knocking doors. Welcome to my podcast where I talk about all things women, the ups and downs of my journey, and what it takes to find success on and off the doors. Enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode. I feel like it's been a little while since I've actually got on and created some content. My summer has just begun, which means that I am out here on the doors running a team, still dealing and hanging out with my kids while still trying to continue to add value into the space that I love a ton. So by the time some of you guys listen to this episode, our summer would have already been started like 3 weeks ago. So the topic that I want to talk about today, I've been so impressed by how many of you women out there are getting into the space and have kids. I've had women who've they're in the door-to-door space and they're now pregnant and wanting to know like the changes or some tips and advice about being pregnant while on the doors. And then I have some of you women out there who are single moms and trying to figure out how to provide for your children while achieving your goals and trying to figure out a space that's a little bit tricky. And then there's those of you women out there who are a little bit older, 40s, 50s. It's been so fun to see some of you guys actually get into the space and see what it looks like. And you guys are dealing with your own dilemmas with adult children and just their perceptions and thoughts of you. And so I do want to address mom guilt. It's real. And I'm basically here to say that it won't go away. 14 years, is it 14? 2008? So my 15th summer in door-to-door, and of those 15 summers, 9 of those, my kids have been a part of the space. So my oldest daughter is 9. I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old who, just reminds me all the time that his dad is his best friend. And it's inevitable because I am the working spouse and his dad gets to have the privilege of being at home with him. And so I do get a lot of guilt and still feel it on a regular basis, knowing that he's always asking for his dad a lot more than he asks for me. But anyways, I want to go over some of the tips, and they're not tricks because I want to validate the emotion and the feeling that comes with guilt and motherhood and wanting to be a badass at the same time in the door-to-door space. And I just want you women out there who are raising kids on your own, who are currently pregnant or who have a spouse, you have kids and you're still out here trying to figure it out. I see you. And I'm inspired by you. So I do kind of want to go over some of the things that I've been able to do that has helped me, not necessarily overcome guilt, but just to be able to live with it. It's not something that's going to go away with time. But for me, it's been something that I've been able to compartmentalize in the sense of I know that it's going to be for a short season. I know that it's going to be difficult and it's going to be tricky. But for the majority of my children's lives, they will have the freedom that I didn't have growing up. And so I have a hard time trying to compare myself to others just because I feel like I'm an anomaly in the sense that a lot of you women out there who are asking some of these questions, you guys struggle a lot and allow some of those emotions while you are on the doors to basically affect who you are and what you're capable of. So I kind of want to just break it down into two sections for those of you women who are currently pregnant, have no other kids, but you're pregnant, on the doors and you want to keep knocking. So with my oldest daughter, Anarisa, I was humongous on the doors. I wish that I had taken more photos and footage of my pregnant belly while knocking doors. I was probably around 270 pounds, ladies, pregnant with Anarisa and freaking knocking doors in California. And so for me, I have a hard time sitting still. My husband definitely enjoys being a stay-at-home dad a lot more than I do. And I can't sit still. So anyhow, this specific summer, because I was super overweight, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to get in the exercise that I needed for my daughter. I was trying to get in all my steps and make a competition out of it so that I would be able to have a healthy birth. And so for me, I used door-to-door that summer as a sport in order to basically keep my glucose levels and all the other things that the doctors wanted of me to be able to have like a healthy pregnancy. So 9 years ago, so I guess she's 9. Yeah, 9 years ago, I was knocking in California and I decided to only do half a summer. And so within that half a summer, knocking up until my daughter was almost born in August, wobbling up to doors, I was still able to service more accounts than most men on the team. And that's being like super overweight. So I want to go over like some of the tips that I had used while I was on the doors and being pregnant. Because for one, it's not any different knocking than if you weren't pregnant in the sense of mindset. You're going to be using different incentives. You're going to be out there doing it for different reasons. But at the end of the day, the kid isn't here yet. So you have so much power. You have so much opportunity to be able to just focus on the simple fact that you want to be healthy for the baby. And so some of the things that I did while I was on the doors and knocking while pregnant is I decided to make a game out of it. I wanted to make sure that I was going to hit a certain number of like steps, like every single day. I was like, okay, I want to be able to tell the doctors that I'm walking this amount of miles, that I'm doing like this amount of steps. And I just always had my Anarisa at the back of my mind as I was out there knocking doors, and she was literally there with me. So how cool is it to be able to like have you be pregnant, be out there and know that your kid is like literally right there with you as you're knocking doors. And that was literal motivation for me. So some of the things that made it a little bit easier, we want to be careful. You know, we want to make sure that we're not putting the kid at risk or, just like the heat and the different factors. And so for the majority of the time, I had my own car. That would be like my first tip that I would give. And while having that car, I would set different goals and different milestones. And so at the end of the week, if I had a certain number of sales, I would be buying like a set of onesies, okay, for the baby. If I reached my goal, like the following week, I was going to go and get her like some cute booties and go and do like a bunch of shopping that was going to be able to get me excited about being on the doors. And so one of the ways that I was able to overcome some of the fatigue that comes with being pregnant is I would set a goal during the hour of what I was going to do. It wasn't ever the number of sales. I was like, okay, I'm going to physically knock this amount of doors in an hour. And at the end of the hour, I'm going to go to the gas station. I'm going to take like a break. I'm going to get a couple granola bars. I'm going to have a snack, whatever it was. But I was going to do that at the top of the hour. And I would not, there was no negotiation with the hour. I would have to work a full hour before I do anything. And again, this is just during while I was pregnant. So to be able to know at the end of each hour that I was going to be taking a break, it just kept my mindset just focus on what I was doing in front of me and not the simple fact of what can and can't happen in the future. So I would suggest to those of you women who are pregnant out there, like set goals, be out there by yourself. Like you are going to fully knock for a full hour. Then you're going to go and take your 15, 20-minute break. And then you're going to get back on the doors. And you're going to do that still for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours out the day, and not focus on the numbers, not focus on anything else, especially while you're pregnant. All you're going to do is just set attainable goals every hour, and then you're going to stop. You're going to reevaluate. You're going to check yourself, check your feelings, your emotions, because they are heightened a lot more while we're pregnant. Okay. So for those of you women out there who have given birth and have kids and are single and raising children right now, props to you. I feel like my husband is a single parent during the summer, because I am so focused on helping other people attain their goals while I'm attaining mine, that I've been lucky enough to have support. And so for those of you women out there who do have spouses or do have family members that you're going to be able to lean on, you want to be able to set a schedule, set like a time of where it's like, hey, if my family is available to watch my kids during this time, you are going to spend that season, or you're going to spend that day hanging out with your kids. You're not going to feel guilty that you're not on the doors. You're not going to beat yourself up that other people may have better numbers than you. You're going to be focusing on basically the vision and the dream that you're going to be working with by yourself or with your family. So if you have family members who are going to be able to watch the kids from noon to 4 o'clock, that's when you're going to give your all on the doors. Is going to be from noon to 4 o'clock. And then from 4 o'clock until dark, or when the kids go to bed, like that is your season with your kids. Like as a mom and as a wife and as a female leader in this space, I've just decided to look at this time or each moment as seasons. Because you're going to have guilt, you're going to have different emotions in every season and every aspect of your life, but there's going to be a time and a place for those emotions and those seasons. And so for those of you single women out there, I see you guys. And my suggestion to those of you women who are having to do it on your own, the guilt isn't going to go away, but there are so many tools here in 2022 that we don't need to have any type of excuse of why we can't fulfill our dreams and still be there for our children. I know so many boss women who have raised their children like on their own, made it happen. So one of the suggestions that I would give for those of you women who are in the door-to-door space are tools like care.com. You want to be able to use Facebook groups. I know some of my kids' favorite nannies we have found on care.com or Facebook groups. In your market, say that you guys are traveling to a different market. You want to get on Facebook. You want to be able to like type in that market name and get to know some of the women in your area. Get on care.com right now and start interviewing people to be able to come and watch your children during the hours of the day that you want to be able to give to the door-to-door space. And that's tricky. I know some of you guys are thinking like, I can never trust my kids, with anyone else. And if that's the case, you've got to figure out another solution of friends, of family, if the door-to-door space is going to be a place of where you want to be. I know how hard that it can be. For those of you spouses out there where both of you are knocking doors, I wish my husband was knocking doors too. It'd be double the fun. But there was a time where my kids were young. My daughter was probably 3 at the time, and my son was 2. And my husband was working in a completely different state. I think he was working in California. I was in Utah at the time, but this was when we were both a little bit stubborn. He, was in an industry that he liked, and he just wanted to like work and move his way up. And myself being stubborn, I'm like, well, I'm really good at door to door. I want to make this happen. And so I feel like my kids didn't have parents for like one of these summers, and I look back and kind of regret it. But my husband would go and work in a different state. I'd be working in a different state. It was like a year my brother got into door to door. And so I felt the guilt to want to go and like train him and help him and his friends So my kids would be left behind with my family members, like, my kids were 1 and 2 at the time. And so the guilt of my husband being away, me being away, and then my kids being watched by like my family members, it had even gotten to the point to where one of my aunts were like, you and your kids are not going to be staying here if one of you guys aren't going to be at home. Like, they knew just how hard that we were working, and they didn't want it to be where we were chasing material things. And for me at that time, it was just it was a lot of pride. I come from a background where, money was scarce, and I didn't want my children to feel that way. So all the guilt of wanting to be able to continue to create those dreams and those visions, and my husband and I not necessarily working together at that time, I still to this day regret just how little my kids saw us during that time. And so we definitely have made a pact that my kids will always have one of us home. And if my husband was going to sacrifice his job and an industry that he loved in order for me to fulfill my dreams and my goals, I was going to give it 1,000%. So my husband is a full-time stay-at-home dad, and we have been blessed in that situation to where my kids always have someone at home. Like, they will always know one of their parents. And for me, I still feel guilty about that. But I do know that it's a season for the rest of their lives. And so for those of you mom, for those of you single ladies, for those of you older women who are out here in this space just feeling a little guilty, just know that there are some of us out here who feel the same. And all we can do is keep moving forward. The majority of the things that we are doing in our life, we're doing it for our children, our children's children, and our children's children's children. And so because of that generational wealth is why I'm going to continue to be in this door-to-door space. And so again, for those of you women out there with kids, I see you. Take the time now to be able to create the vision, the culture, create the tools, and get the people in your circle that you need to be able to achieve your goals here in the door-to-door space. Until next time, ladies. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. If I've added any kind of value to your thoughts on knocking doors, please share this podcast with another female rep. Until next time, know that you are capable, you are valued, and most importantly, you are enough.